Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Walaikum Assalam. Thank you so much, Kaisa. First of all, it's a privilege, it's an honor that I'm getting this opportunity to talk to these young researchers. For a researcher, I'm sure you will share my feeling that for a researcher, nothing is more valuable than an opportunity to share his or her experiences with youngsters. So I'm quite pleased with this opportunity, and I really hope that this session adds some value in the learning journey of all these youngsters. So again, thank you so much. With this, let me start our session formally. First of all, a brief introduction of myself. As you people already know, but just a little more, I'm Dr. Mohammed Junaid. I'm serving as Assistant Professor of Marketing at Asian Institute of Technology. I'm also adjunct professor at Korea University, that is among top 50 universities in the world. I'm also affiliated with Sumegi Research Center at Lucida University, Portugal. My specialization is marketing. That is the reason why on your screen you see a lot of information on research area and research papers, conference pieces on primarily focused on marketing. And even today's discussion, more or less examples again would be coming from my context and my background. I hope that won't be a problem for most of us. I recently been appointed as associate editor for the Journal of Human Systems Management. It's a journal on SAGE publishers. Okay, what we are going to discuss today, what is a research gap? What are different types of research gaps? What methods or techniques we may use to identify research gaps in a paper? And what are other ways to uncover research gaps? Structuring the literature review, this is something additional. This is not the primary topic of our today's discussion, but just in case we found time, we left with some time, then we will be having a discussion that how can we really structure a literature review for a certain variable. Okay, so I really would wish that our today's session is not really a lecture, right? Because lecture is something where one person is sharing his ideas or his understandings of different concepts. On the other hand, I would love to have our today's session as a discussion session, because once we discuss, it becomes more fruitful for all the participants, including the presenter himself. So really hope that wherever you will have something to share, something to ask, you will feel free to ask or to share your thoughts. So moving forward, what is a research gap? Yes, is there anything?
No, yeah, you can continue, please.
Okay. So research gap is an area where existing studies are incomplete, inconsistent, outdated, or silent. So I repeat, research gap is an area where existing studies are incomplete, inconsistent, or outdated or silent. So when we see this particular definition of research gap, those who are new to research, if there is someone from you who is new to research, might be thinking why we really do need to identify a research gap. So can anybody comment on why do we need to identify a research gap?
Yeah, please, you can raise hand so that we can give you the floor. Please first raise your hand so that I can give the floor one by one. Okay, Anwasha, and then anyone else? Okay, Dr. Junaid is asking in the question, what is a research gap? Is there anyone else? Only Anwasha. Okay, please go ahead, Anwasha.
Hello, sir. I hope you're doing well. So, yeah, a research gap is an area of a topic that has not been fully studied or explained, where more research is needed to provide better understanding or knowledge. I think there is.
Perfect, Anwar. You're very right. So you defined a research gap very appropriately. So we are just, the question right now is, why do we need to have a research gap? Why do we need to identify a research gap?
Yeah.
To be fulfill a paper strongly without any gap for the reliable I mean to be the paper reliable for the people to understand and comprehensively. I think that's why we have to identify it to be fulfilled accordingly about the research. So
Very question now. RAR Institute is
Okay, Anwar. Asim?
Thank you, Dr. or Professor. I'm really happy to have you in our institute. So I would like to share something. Why do research gap is really important? Research gap is important because if there is anything left, or if there anything is missing, so if we add them, then our research paper, article, or reports will be stronger, and if there will be nothing missing, that must be researched, that must be researched to a strong the research paper, article, everything, likely to not to miss anything. We need to do research gap.
Thank you, Asim. Yes, may I request Junaid?
Sure, sir. Thank you, sir. Yes, sir. This is me, Junaid. So, research gap is something that we kept as a gap in research. So, when we will use our methodologies to do any research, I mean the method which we do in our research. So, by using our systems of researching, we will find the gaps there, where is the gaps remain, and how we will solve it. I think by using the method, we can remove the gaps.
Okay, thank you, Junaid. Okay, last comment. Who is left? Is it Hafizur Rahman? Who raised hand, right?
Yes, sir. As according to my understanding, research gap is an object or question that has not been studied enough, or that also means in our existing research. For example, it's important because it helps us or guide us to make a new contribution. For example, I want to say an example. Many studies exist about food aid distribution in camps, but a few studies about abduction or trafficking risks. So this is called a research gap. Yes, sir. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much, everyone. Hafizur Rahman, again, your answer is probably one of the most closest or most appropriate one. So for all, I'm happy that you, Junaid, Anwar, and Asim, you responded from the perspective of a research paper or research report or from thesis point of view, where you emphasize that if research gap is not strong enough or is not properly identified, then your report or your paper would not be strong enough. That's a correct comment. But more appropriate or more comprehensive view is what Hafizur Rahman mentioned. If I expand on that, see, why research gap is important? The answer to this question lies in more fundamental question, that is, why do we conduct a research, or what is the purpose of research? See, academic research or any research is often done to create knowledge, right? So when we are going to conduct a research to create knowledge, if we do not work on a strong research gap, it means we are not going to create a new knowledge. Rather, we will be kind of what we use a phrase, we will be reinventing the wheel. To make sure we do not reinvent the wheel, we do not re-identify, we do not invest our energies and resources on something that is already known. That is the reason why it's very important that any researcher, before conducting a research, identify a strong research gap, a clear research gap. One, yes, main.
No, I think he mistakenly unmuted. Yeah, please, you can continue.
Okay, so it means for the quality or for the value of a research, the most fundamental, the most important thing is to identify a proper, strong, solid, theoretically sound research gap. Hypothetically speaking, if research gap is not thoroughly identified or a not solid research gap is worked on, then no matter how good you conduct the research, it would not be yielding anything significant, neither in terms of a report and more particularly in terms of your publication, right? So it's very important that we identify a solid research gap. So let's move with this. That what is a research gap? You all have defined it quite well. Similarly, that is what is on our screen. That research gap is an area where existing studies are either incomplete, inconsistent, outdated, or silent. It represents an opportunity for new contributions that advance theory, practice, or policy. See, when I was explaining that why do we conduct research, I suggested or I mentioned that it is to generate new knowledge. And when we will be generating new knowledge that may contribute in the form of a new theory or advancing a certain existing theory, or it will allow us to improve practice in certain areas, or to give some policy guidelines based on the findings of your research. So in simple terms, a research gap answers what is missing in current knowledge that my study can add. And if we work on a thing that is already known, it would mean my study does not add anything further. So to really make sure that your study or our study is valuable, is adding something, it's important to work on the research gap. What are different types of research gaps? So different scholars categorize them slightly differently, but main types can be a few. So before I share and discuss, can I have just one response from you? Who raises the hand first would be invited to comment on this, on the types of research gaps. Who would like to comment on it? What are the different types of research gaps? Okay, Anwar Shah is the first hand I could see. So Anwar, yes?
Yes, yes, sir. If I say some comment, there are lots of research gap, evidence gap, knowledge gap, and methodological gap, theoretical gap, and populational gap. There are so many gaps, sir. So
Proportional
that's
gap?
it. I think if we do a research, there are like about the Rohingya refugee population, right? So if we if we don't mention how many people there are living, I mean accurate information like that number.
Okay, got it. Fine, that is fine.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Anwar, for your comment. So let's go into the details. So different scholars categorize them differently. Main types include theoretical gap, that is the lack of theory, weak theorization, or untested conceptual frameworks. Similarly, as the guy mentioned earlier, methodological gap, that is where limited or inappropriate research designs are used to study a certain phenomena or different phenomena, over reliance on certain methods, or absence of innovative approaches. Contextual gap, neglected regions, though Anwar mentioned the example of proportion, Similarly, we can say if a certain population of Rohingyas is not being investigated in, let's say, in East Asia, just to get an anonymous example. So if somebody aims to study Rohingya population in that particular geographical area, that would be a neglected region. Similarly, we may aim to investigate certain variables or certain relationships in different industries. And then we have cultures or different settings to work on. Then population gap is the, let's say, Asian are not being investigated in terms of brand sacredness, if we say. Practical gaps, that is lack of translation into actionable insights for managers or policymakers. So that is where we have multiple researches already there, but they are not clear enough or directed enough to provide policy guidelines. Then you may aim to conduct research on that particular thing to find out or to understand that how we can really guide the managers in the future. Guys, please excuse me for a moment. Please excuse me for this delay. Actually, these days I'm single parent at home for some reasons, and I had to deal some internal affair. Okay, moving forward. So next gap is if there are any contradictions or inconsistent findings between different constructs or different relationships. For example, I largely work on consumer brand relationships. And I know that the relationship between brand love and compulsive buying, there are different or contradictory findings. So in that case, I may opt to conduct a research on these just to counter or just to address those contradictions. Then there can be evidence gap, that is lack of empirical studies. There are a lot of studies which are qualitative in nature and probably would require some quantitative researches to work on that. Then temporal gap, which are outdated studies, don't account for recent changes. For example, let's say if there is any study being conducted in 1971 and it's about technology, and the findings of that particular study would probably not be applicable or relatable for the day-to-day, given that the advancements in terms of artificial intelligence and metaverse, all these things. What are the different techniques to identify research gaps? So I am sure many of you would be familiar with a term what we call review papers. Can anybody comment on what is a review paper? Anyone? Okay, so generally a review paper is a paper that is entirely focused
Hello,
on...
sir. Hello,
Yeah.
sir. Can you hear me? Sorry,
Yeah.
network connection. Will you like to repeat, please, the question?
Okay, so I asked, what is a review paper?
Okay, thank you, sir. I think, according to me, a review paper is a type of academic writing that summarize or analyze and discuss existing research on a specific topic instead of preparing a new experiment or original data.
Sorry, Anwar, could you please
Can
repeat?
you hear me, sir?
Yes, could you please repeat?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, a review. You mean a review paper, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, I think a review paper is an academic writing that summarize or analyze and discuss existing research on a specific topic.
Yes. So if I say it more in more general terms, A review paper is usually a paper that reviews multiple research papers. Those can be quantitative or qualitative, and then synthesizes the findings of all those papers and writes what is already being investigated, how being investigated, what are the research gaps which could be answered. So one of the most rich source of direct identification of research gaps is review paper. Usually the review papers are of multiple, they are written with multiple methodologies, but most dominant, most common method is systematic review, or what we call systematic literature review, SLR. It follows a PRISMA approach, that is step-by-step screening of articles to map what is studied and what is missing. Similarly, there is another concept that was given by Justin Paul in last decade, that is RTCCM framework. He identified, or he suggested that for conducting a review, you can review based on these 4 grounds: theories, context, characteristics, and methods, to see where gaps exist. And for each section, you can identify, or you can see that what is missing and what needs to be done. So this is one rich source of identifying the research gaps. If you are aiming to decide on, or if you are aiming to finalize your framework for some research, one quick, efficient, and very effective way of choosing what to do is identifying the review papers on your topic of interest. For example, if you are aiming to study consumer brand relationships, you can look for review papers published on that topic. And always remember that topic or that publication ideally should be published in recent year. Actually, not only for review paper, for anything you do in your research, you can make it your habit that when you are searching for papers, you select a criteria of year 2025. It's 2025 right now, right? So maximum you go back to 2024 when you are at the stage of deciding the gap. Once you are done, then look for the papers in recent years first, and then go for some older papers. Only if they are seminal work, if they are those theory papers which you are going to use as overarching theory. Next is, how can we really read or review a research paper to identify research gaps from its different sections? So first of all, we have abstract and keywords. Usually abstract and keywords, it's a low medium extent. We do not find much in terms of... Yes, Samir? Kesar, can you hear
No,
me?
I think you mistakenly unmuted. Yeah, please, you can continue.
Okay. So usually we do not find much from abstract in terms of gaps, but still when you're reading abstract, it can hint you, it can guide you at some time that what can be your research topic for the future. In that case, you might look for sentences such as, little is known about, or scarce attention has been given to a certain construct. It's helpful for quick scanning, but not detailed enough. It can be used as entry point. After abstract, we come to the introduction section of a paper. That is a rich part of a paper where you can identify or you can find some research gaps. It is where usually authors position their work by pointing out to the gaps. Or this is where every scholar tries to persuade, establish its gap, that why he or she is working on that particular research or particular paper. And during this process, they mention more than what they do, or they identify multiple gaps and then choose one or two to work on in that particular paper. So in this section, you may find out sentences like, however, price studies have overlooked or contradictory results, limited research in a particular context. So this is where you can identify research gaps. Okay, I would like to request that please keep your mic off. If you have question, please feel free to ask anything. But if you are not asking, then please keep mic off, because that sounds like that maybe somebody wants to ask something.
Yeah, please. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Okay, next is literature review section. This is where we can really find substantial research gaps for our future researches, because it is where authors summarize, critique, and cluster past work. And again, when they will be criticizing or critiquing on the past work, they would not be referring strictly to what they are doing or the variables they are studying. Rather, there would come some general statements or general gaps which would be encapsulating broader areas, and then they would specify that, okay, out of this, we are aiming to answer this particular research question or this particular relationship in this particular research paper. So while reading your literature review section, you may or we may look for repeated calls for more research in certain areas, over emphasis on certain methods, regions, or population. That is, we often read in papers that this particular phenomena, let's say carbon emissions, these are largely studied in Western contexts, but Asian context is understudied. So that is another area where we can choose to work on. Again, there can be reference to some contradictory findings or unresolved debates. You can also work on research agendas, tables or frameworks that some reviewers might have added. So this is a primary place to extract research gaps. After literature review, we will be moving to methodology section. Again, in methodology section, we may find some research gap hints, but it's not rich in terms of that. Why? Okay, let me explain another thing in parallel in terms of methodology. When I was talking about different types of research gaps, I did mention contextual gap or geographical gaps. We often see some young researchers working on geographical gaps. They would be saying that this particular thing is studied in West, but not being studied in East, right? Theoretically, yes, it's a logical, sound argument, but at the same time, it is very important that the thing we are choosing to work on, they are also worthy studying in different contexts, and they're likely to behave differently in different contexts. If we found out that when somebody is thirsty and drinks a glass of water in West, feels better, we cannot propose that this is something not being investigated in Thailand or in Asia, and we want to restudy, reconfirm that during thirst, if somebody drinks water, it would satisfy his thirst or her thirst. So geographical gap should not be a justification or enough justification. Similarly, when it comes to methodology, we often see limitation section, and it is often mentioned that this particular research was or is a cross-sectional research. We recommend a longitudinal investigation of this particular phenomena. So this is a difference of methodology from cross-sectional to longitudinal. But again, if we take something as it is for the investigation in terms of cross-sectional to longitudinal, that probably would not work well again in terms of top journals. So even if you are working on geographical gap, methodological gap, you still need to make sure that there is some theoretical, some conceptual gap as well. So methodology section would be reporting about methodologies which are being used, and better methodologies would be advised or suggested that you might need to have a better methodology. Then we have, right after methodology, we have analysis and findings section. This is where very little is talked about that what needs to be studied in the future. Rather, it talks about more that what is being found out. Still, when we are reading a paper, it would be nicer if we could look for unexpected or mixed results, especially if somebody says that surprisingly, our study finds, or interestingly, this study reports, it was not expected that this particular relationship would not be significant, but in this case it is, so that intrigues the researchers to look for it further. So if you find such kind of phrases or things, then yes, it can serve you as a future gap. Otherwise, usually this section is not rich. However, when we move to discussion section, that is where we can find a lot of references or a lot of hints on future research, because this is where authors interpret findings and prior studies. That is where they interpret their findings and connect those with the previous literature. And when they will be connecting with the previous literature, it's not necessary that every time each finding complements what is being proposed already. So this is where we can find for something interesting in terms of research gaps. And then this is where we have what we call gaps served in the plate, limitations and future directions. This is where researchers directly point out or provide the gaps for the future researchers. They provide direct call for researches. If you are reviewing a basic level journal, then you will be finding very basic level future recommendations, as they would be saying, as I mentioned earlier, that this particular research has used a non-probability sampling technique. Future researchers may consider following a probability sampling. But probability sampling has two criteria. One, the population framework is known, completely known. Second, it needs to be
Ini apa saya tiba Kaiser na ba? Apa saya tiba? Hello?
Yes.
Hello, re Kaiser phone on na hata tu phone on na re Mohammed Kaiser. Yeah,
remove कर दिले तुम्हारा मारिबो ना होना.
Okay. I think he was.
Should I continue?
Yeah, please.
Okay, so in the future researches, it's important that you are reading research papers which are published in top journals. I'm sure you people are already familiar with different types of rankings, such as Scopus rank journals, Web of Science, index journals. Then in terms of social sciences, we have ABDC ranking, that is Australian Business Dean Council ranking. We have UK-based ranking, that is ABS, Associate Business Schools. Then we have FT50, Financial Times 50 journals, and University of Dallas 10 journals. So it is strongly recommended right at the early stage of your career that you review or you read top tier journals, because only then you would be able to really understand how to approach a research from all the aspects. So this is the summary in terms of gap identification from or while reading a paper, and literature review, limitations and future section, recommendation section. These are two most rich areas where you can find research gaps. Okay, this is another recap of what we just discussed. Let's talk about some other ways to uncover or to decide on future research gaps. First is emerging concepts and trends. So when you are aiming to choose an area to work on or for your, either it's your research paper or it's your thesis, try to go for some new concepts which are newly introduced. If I am to advise any of my students that, okay, you are working on a research gap, I would strongly encourage him or her to see the marketing. In terms of marketing, I would be recommending. Kaisar, am I audible?
Yeah, you can audible. Yeah.
So in terms of marketing, I would be recommending to look for recent concepts such as brand addiction, such as consumer wisdom, brand hero. Why I'm taking these names directly, because I know brand addiction debate started in 2017. So it's been just 8 years and there are maybe 38 papers on brand addiction. If somebody would be working on brand addiction, it's more likely to come up with new things. Consumer wisdom, this was introduced in 2021, I guess. So just 4 years of this particular concept. Similarly, if I would be suggesting brand heroes, till I last see, there was only one paper in European Journal of Marketing. So once we choose a new concept for our research, the possibility of adding newness or the possibility of novelty is very high. And along this new concept, you can consider the new context such as AI, sustainability, digital platforms. All these things really help to strengthen the gap you're working on. Last one, if I talk about cross-disciplinary borrowing, I can explain it with a very nice example that what I did. My colleagues, as I'm specialized in marketing, my friend, a couple of friends are specialized in human resource and leadership. So they were working on responsible leadership. And we have been discussing our papers with each other. And while discussing, one day it clicked that how come if I adapt that leadership idea in branding context? Because I'm sure, sorry, you know that these days we are working on brand anthropomorphism, that is humanizing brand. So if a brand can be humanized, similarly, it can act as a leader. So I adapted the idea of leadership in branding concept in branding, and I introduced the concept of responsible brand leadership that is published in Service Industries Journal in 2024. That is with an impact factor over 7. So that's a good journal. So that is another way of establishing or strengthening your research gap. Next is scholarly ecosystem signals, which may come from highly cited review papers which we have discussed, or in particular special issue or call for papers. So whenever you're choosing for your topic, make sure that you look for different call for papers of different journals, especially of top journals. Because if they have called for papers on a certain topic, it guarantees that that particular topic needs attention and needs to be investigated. So that is a kind of automatic validation for the need of a particular research or the need of a particular knowledge to be created. And it's very easy. You write call for papers for Emerald, you will find a link where you can have all the journals, and then you can filter out based on your own interest or your own area. Similarly, we have for elsewhere, we have for Taylor and Francis. So it becomes very easy in that case. So that is all for today. This is just an add-on how to structure your literature review. I'm sure you all can read these once. I'll share the slide with Mr. Kessler and you can have a read of it. This is just an additional or what we call a plus to what was promised. With this, allow me to conclude this session. Thank you so much. That's all from my side. If you have any comments or questions, please feel those. I'm happy to answer.
Okay, thank you so much. Yeah, I think you can. You can remove the slide so that maybe there will be some question from the student. Yeah,
Sure.
you can remove the slide. Yeah. So, who are ready to ask? If you have any question, please raise your hand. Hello.
Yes.
No, I'm asking for. I mean, yes.
Sorry.
Yeah, I need learner. Yeah.
Meanwhile, I am seeing what is being written in the chat group, and it's really nice the way it has been suggested. Okay, I'm sorry I couldn't see your comments or your messages during discussion because I'm more used to of seeing and speaking to the people.
Yeah. Yeah, we got it. Yeah, okay.
Yes, Anwar.
Yeah. Okay, Anwar, go ahead.
Hello, sir. I don't have any question, but my comment is that today's section is very articulate and very meaningful for us. So we will. I am appreciating you. So and also we are hoping to get more session regarding the research. So we hope, sir. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you so much, Anwar, for your kind comment. I'm also looking forward to, if you people find this session valuable, definitely I am looking forward to have more discussions with you. And as I mentioned earlier in the beginning, I really prefer discussions instead of lecturing, because for a lecture, you can simply open your YouTube and can listen anyone. People far superior researcher than myself would be there to talk about anything. So the benefit of having a person in person is having a discussion. Thank you so much again.
Yes, sir. Thank you. I have a question, sir. Am I audible, please?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. Actually, we could understand your every slide unique way. So I have a question, that is, how can identifying a research gap help is to a Rohingya youth researcher make their study more unique and impactful?
Okay, how to find a research gap that make your study more meaningful and valuable, right? This is the question.
Yes, sir.
Okay. See, my personal experience is that whenever we are finding a research gap, it's important that the research gap is multidimensional that we are addressing. As during my discussion, I mentioned only methodological gap is not enough, in my opinion. Even if you are working on some methodological or geographical gap, make sure there is some new theory or there is some new relationship. And if that is the case, then automatically your research becomes more valuable. And to make it a bit easier, I would recommend you choose new topics, new constructs, new variables for your research. I hope I answered the question.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Thank you. Yeah, I had a question. I had another question. So I think I can ask it lastly. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you.
Yeah, Asim, you can go ahead. Yeah, Asim.
First of all, again, I'd like to thanks to our professor for your well explanation. Your expression was beyond our expression. And I have a question, that is, what are the strategies a refugee researcher can use for systematically identify research gap through research review? As a refugee, as we don't have many more chance to go anywhere, so what kind of strategies can we use to further systematically identify research gap?
Wonderful question, if I got it right. So basically, you are asking that when you have some limitations in terms of mobility, how can you choose or on what particular gap you can work to still make your research valuable, right?
Yeah.
Okay, in that case, I would recommend you to work on a review paper. Why I'm suggesting you to work on a review paper? Because when you are working on a review paper, all you need is access on research papers. That is it. Then once you have all the review papers, you can review those on your own with your system and write your research paper. And these days, review papers are valued enough. This is the most, I would say, safe path for research or publication. Second thing can be that rather than looking outside, a good way would be if you if you look inside and work on the issues you are facing, right? So if you are aiming to conduct a new research, it would be nice if you conduct a research taking your own people as respondents. Be solution oriented. If you are able to conduct a research and suggest some practical solutions, it's very likely that your paper would be welcomed by good journals. I hope I am able to give you some direction. Asim?
Yeah, Professor. Yeah, I got some. I got it. I got it. Thank you for your well explanation again.
Okay, we have
Okay,
7 minutes more.
And next, we have three more question. Yeah, okay. Juwai Muhammad Juwai, yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, so thank you so much for your valuable time here. One thing I want to ask is that as most Rohingya research focuses on humanitarian aid and crisis response, how do we identify gaps in areas like education, mental health, or intergenerational trauma that are underexplored? Could you please draw your explanation?
Okay. So if I take one example, that is, let's say mental health, right? So if
Yeah.
I am to work on mental health, first what I will do is I will search for mental health keyword in Google Scholar with a year restriction of only 2025. So basically, I will find out papers published on mental health in 2025 in the area that is of my interest. Then I will choose 5 papers from top journals. When I say top journals, I mean those which have highest impact factor and in Q1, let's say. So then I will read their future recommendations in terms of mental health, and that would be a good guide for me or for you to start or to decide on what to work. I hope I am able to give you some direction on it.
Ji sir, thank you so much for
My
your
pleasure.
wonderful explanation.
One thing we can do is that if we could arrange another session in near future, then I will, what I just explained, going on Google Scholar, searching for the keyword, looking for the paper, their ranking, and then opening that paper and reading the future recommendation section particularly, and then extracting the gaps. I would try to show you this all by sharing my screen, that I would be doing this all and you people would be able to see, and maybe that would be helpful more.
Yeah, inshallah. Yeah, inshallah. So we have, is there anyone else? I think,
Okay, maybe I can respond a question that how can identify research gaps in formulating strong research questions and hypotheses. Okay, this is something we have been talking about, that there are multiple ways to identify research gaps. One is, okay, let's make it very simple. I tell you just 2 specific ways to find research gap, apart from taking it from extracting from the today's discussion. One, directly go first, extract or find the relevant paper that is relevant to your topic or variable that is of your interest. Directly go to future recommendation section and see what is recommended. That is one area where you will directly find research gaps that can be, solid, that can be valuable. Second, look for research calls, special issues from different journals. Are you familiar with what is special issue? Okay, special issue of a journal is where journals announce that we are inviting researches or research papers on this particular topic. And once you find that, then you can know that, okay, this is the area that journals are asking for, and you can write paper on that particular topic. So these are 2 easiest and most solid ways to identify the research gap. I hope I could make it a bit easier for all of you.
Yeah,
So,
I think, yeah.
Kaisa, maybe
Then you
last.
have no more question. Yeah, I think. Yeah, please. Yeah. Yes.
Let's have last question. I just thought that maybe
Did you say
last
something?
one.
Okay, I think we have no more question. I think.
Yes, sir. I have a question. Just
Think
waiting.
now it's also. Yeah. Okay. I'm sure
Yes, sir.
Amar,
I have a
please.
question.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Yeah. We learned about research review. So I have a little question, that is, how does a research review help a researcher avoid repeating past studies? So if you can explain, it will be better.
Okay, a
Thank
quick answer to this query is that a review paper reviews a large number of research papers, and when it reviews, it finds out that how different or a particular concept is being defined. Are there multiple definitions? Or there is one definition? If there are multiple definitions, are they aligned or not? Right? So a review paper would be guiding on this thing, and there is a possibility that definitions are different and contradictory, and you would like to work on that. Then review paper also finds out that on a certain topic, how different researches are being conducted in terms of methodology. By reading that paper, you might get to know that most of the research on a particular topic that is of your interest, researches are quantitative. Automatically, you will get to know that, okay, for this topic, there is a need for qualitative researches, and also you might get to know in which geographical areas where researches have been done. So that is the second thing. Third is characteristic, that is where a review paper will be reporting on the antecedents, outcomes, moderators, mediating variables. And it helps you identify what variables have been studied, what are their findings, is there any contradiction, and what specific variables are yet to be studied. So you can again extract this thing from there. Last is theory, context, characteristics, method. So these are the four things, or four areas where a review paper often talks about. And then there is a special section of future research calls, where you might find 10, 12, 15 research questions already articulated for the future researchers. So this is how a theoretical or a literature review paper helps or guides the future direction of the research on a particular topic. I hope I'm able to summarize it for you.
Yes, sir. Of course. Actually, thank you so much. Your every explanation is beyond our expectation. Actually, we are very glad to having you, sir. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Hafizur Rahman.
Section. I think we have already 1 hour. So inshallah, thank you so much, Dr. Junaid, for your insightful section. Of course, I believe that the section was very helpful for the learner. And so inshallah, we are expecting we are expecting also in the future that you will join with us in the weekly section series. So thank you so much, and also thank you to everyone who are participated into this section.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure, Kaisar. And thank you so much, everyone, for joining and for your valuable insights and questions. Hope to see you some other day.
Yeah, thank you, inshallah, inshallah, inshallah.